You know, a question I get a lot of times is, what's your setup that you throw a vibe jig on? And I'll tell you what, I have wrestled around with this myself, trying to find the best setup to not miss so many strikes or lose so many strikes, because hey, let's face it, a vibe jig is a great bait in a lot of situations, but a lot of times you get a lot of missed strikes and lose a lot of fish. So here's what I've found over what they've been out 7 or 8 years, maybe, or maybe even longer than that. But here's what I've found is the best for me. I like to use a cranking rod. You know, this is the Halo Cranking Series 2. This is my absolute favorite cranking rod. But I use a cranking rod and I put 30-pound braid on it. This is Sunline SX1 30-pound braid. And there's something to this setup to me that just seems to work really well. The cranking rod, you know, we all know a cranking rod is a big moderate bend, you know, and kind of feeds the bait to the fish. But yet with the braid, when I do pull back to set the hook, when I get the bite, I get a nice solid hook into them. So I think between the cranking rod and the braid, you know, they almost don't really go together, but I think in this situation they do, because the rod feeds the bait to the fish once he strikes it, yet the braid allows me to really drive that hook home when I do that. And a lot of times I think what happens is, when that vibe jig is coming through the water, it's actually like this. It's not like this. So when that thing's coming like that, that blade in a way is impeding the hook a little bit. So I think that's why when that fish comes up from behind it and he bites down on it, as you can see, that blade, it doesn't touch the hook, but it could impede. So I just think with that braid, when you do go to set the hook, there's no stretch, so you can really drive that hook home. So I really think, as far as setup goes, you know, a cranking rod and braid. I use the Ardent 6.5-to-1 Apex reel for this. Seems to work really good, but this setup for me really works well, and I hope that answers a question that I've gotten a lot. You know, I hear a lot of guys talking about different retrieves with a vibe jig, but to me, it seems like day in and day out, just a steady retrieve really seems to get a lot more bites. You know, when I hit a piece, actually like that, when I hit a little piece of grass like that, of course you give it a little jerk to make sure you clear the grass back off the blade. But it just seems to me, now like I said, there might be different situations, but day in and day out, to me, just a steady, you know, moderate retrieve on your vibe jig typically is going to get you more bites.